Hello friends, my name is Shilpa Kakkar. I am from M.B.Patel English Medium Secondary and Higher Secondary School. I have come up with transformation of sentence. Today, the topic which I am going to cover is active voice and passive voice. I will teach you in this the simple way of transforming active voice sentence into passive voice sentence. Let us see how. There are two ways of presenting a sentence. First is active voice and second is passive voice. When we are doing some work, at that time we represent in some way. In active voice, subject comes first. When the verb speaks of its subject as acting, so it is said to be in the active voice. The second way is passive voice. When the verb speaks of its subject of being acted upon or having something done to it, it is called as it is in the passive voice. The example of active voice. Let us see here. Ninad repaired my car. Here, repaired, this word shows. This is verb and verb shows about the work done. So here, Ninad repaired my car. Here, the verb repaired is active. When we turn this same sentence into passive voice, here, repaired will remain the same, but it is in the verb 3 form. That is, my car was repaired by Ninad. Here, this shows, was repaired shows that the sentence is in the passive voice. So here, for the simple understanding, we can say that we have to be careful about the verb of the sentence. When we know about the verb of the sentence at that time, it is very easy for us to understand. Alright, so let us see in detail how it is done. Rules for the formation of sentence. In active voice, subject comes first, object comes last. Doer of the action comes first. In between subject and object, we have verb. So we divide the sentence into three parts: subject, verb, object. On the other hand, when we are changing the sentence into passive voice, at that time, the places change. Here, object comes first and subject comes last. Alright, verb remains at the same place, but the form of the verb changes. Alright, and then only then it can be said that the active voice change into passive voice or passive voices change into active voice. Understood? So, when we form the sentence, we should first divide. We should know. We have to identify. Now I will tell you how to do that. Rules for changing voice. The object of active voice change into subject in the passive voice. As I told you that the places change. The subject of active voice is changed into object in passive voice preceding by. Note, be very careful beta, that the object is open omitted in the passive. After the subject, use proper form of be. We have to be very careful about the tense of the sentence and the number of the subject. It could be singular, it could be plural. So we have to be very careful about it. Otherwise, the form will be wrong. This be, which is into single inverted commas, I have put it into single inverted commas for your understanding. That be form of the verb are, am, is, are, these are the present form of the verbs. Was, were, these are the past form of the verbs. See, in this slide you will understand very easily how we have placed how the sentence pattern is. Subject, here action. Action is done. Here either it is done on the object, here it is done on the object, but it is done by whom? That is the subject. So the sentence construction would be subject, action, that is verb, and the object. So the sentence you have to divide it into three parts: subject, verb, object. Now, when you read the sentence, you will come to know if the object is at the first position, then that sentence is in the passive voice. So here it would be object, action, and subject. But when we change the pattern of the sentence, at that time we have to be little careful. Object is followed by helping verb plus V3 form of the verb plus by plus subject. So be very careful when the sentence contains is having by word, then it is said to be in passive voice. Let us understand in the other way. When I took your direct and indirect form of narration, I gave you 6 steps formula. Now in this, I'm going to give you 5 steps formula. Now how to do it? Here in this, we have to be very careful about 5 things. When we'll take care of all these 5 things, then we will not make any mistake in transforming the sentence. So first of all, what we have to identify? First thing which we have to identify is subject, object, and verb in the sentence. Now, when we have identified all these 3 things, here you might think that why ma'am has written subject, object, and verb. In the previous slide, we have seen that subject, verb, object. Here, that is the pattern, that is the formula. Alright, that is the sentence pattern. Here, I am telling you that you have to identify 3 things. What 3 things? Subject, object, and verb. Object will be at the last in active sentence. Verb will remain in between. Alright. Then second thing which we have to do is to swap the places, subject and object. So if we are changing into passive voice, then we'll put the object first. If we are changing into active voice, then subject will come first. So be very careful. Third step, which you have to keep in mind, that you have to convert the verb form. Sometimes we get confused. What is the verb form of buy? For example, write is very simple. Write, wrote, written. So whenever you get confused, at that time, speak out. For example, I told you about buy. When you speak out in sequence, you will be able to get the right one. So if you want to know what is the past form of buy, then you will immediately speak buy, bought. That is buy, bought. Matlab, the first form of the verb, the base form of the verb is buy, past form of the verb is bought, and past participle is also bought. Let us take another example. For example, it is took. So when it is took, and we have to change it into past participle V3 form, at the time we will speak out. What is the base form of the verb took? Take. Alright, take, took, taken. So we will get the third form of the verb, that is taken. So while transforming active into passive, we have to be very careful. From passive to active, you have to keep all these things in mind. Alright, now the fourth step, that is helping verb should be there before main verb. For example, I gave you the example of take right now, isn't it? I gave you the example that if it is took, then we have to write down the past participle form of the verb. If we are taking taken, so helping verb we have to take with it is was. Why? Because took is in the past tense. So helping verb will be was. So the answer will be was taken. Alright. If it will be future, will be taken. So we have to be very careful regarding it. Helping verb. Helping verb should be there before the main verb. So do not forget to add helping verb before the main verb. Otherwise, the sentence will be incomplete and it will not make any sense. The last and the important thing, that we have to add preposition. Preposition by before the subject. So that we come to know who is the doer of the action. Sometimes it is omitted also. It is open sentence. So, but usually we put subject before, sorry, by before the subject. Identify subject, object and verb. Swap subject and object places, object and subject places. Okay, subject and object. Then convert verb from the first form, second form to the third form of the verb. You have to add helping verb to the main verb. And you have to add preposition before subject. So, if you will do that way, in this way, these 5 steps, you will be able to transform the sentence easily. So, while changing subject, which is a pronoun, to object, we have to keep certain things in mind. If pronoun I is there, then we'll turn into me. Alright. I wrote a letter. A letter was written by me. Alright, this is how we have to keep in mind. He kicked the ball. He is subject, kicked is verb, and the ball is object. But when we turn, we have to be very careful. The ball was kicked by him. So, you have to be very careful while changing the subject, which is a pronoun. If it is she, then obviously it will be turned to her. If it is plural, we, then it would be us. And they would be them. So we have to be very careful while changing subject, which is a pronoun, to object. Another thing, we have to be very careful about the tense of the sentence. So proper helping verb is required before the main verb. So to be form of the verb, we have to be very careful. We have three main types of tenses. Present tense, past tense, and future tense. And they are subdivided, alright, into 12. But how we are going to change it, we will see in the next slide. As you all know, three main types of tenses are there, but they are subdivided into 12. But here, if you can see, we have only 8 of them in front of us. Why? I'll tell you later on. But let us focus on the to be form, which we have to write down before the main verb. I have taken a simple word right over here, just so that you understand it very nicely and easily. Here in simple present tense, either it is right or writes. Here you have to be very careful that in passive voice you have to write down the helping verb is, am, are, depending on the pronoun or the noun. So here is, am, are will be followed by the past participle form of the verb, that is V3, that is written. The second thing which we have to keep in mind in the present continuous tense. How can we come to know that the sentence is in present continuous tense? When is, am, are is there, either of them is there, plus ing form of the verb. So when we have this, at that time we are writing down is, am, are, and being. We have to be very careful. ing, this is the simplest way of remembering that present continuous tense, is, am, are the things which tells us that it is in present tense. It is in continuous. How can we come to know about that it is continuous? When ing is there. And then when we turn into passive voice, it is being written. So written will be there, past participle form of the word would be there always. Alright. But we have to just be careful about the tense of the sentence. So these are the important things which we have to keep in mind. If the sentence is in the present perfect tense, when present perfect tense is there, then the main sentence, if it is he has written a letter. If have or has is there depending upon the number, then we have to be very careful. Then when we'll change it, it will be he has, sorry, a letter has been, or if the plural is there, then have been written by him or them. All right. See the simple past tense. He wrote a letter. Here, the wrote tells us about the simple past tense. Here, when we write down, at the time we write a letter was written. Was because it is singular. He, I have, what I spoke, he. So, he, a letter was written by him. So, was written. This is for singular, this is for plural. So, we have to be very careful. Again, continuous tense. But this time we have the past continuous. How do we come to know that the sentence is in the past continuous? When was and were are there depending on the number. Alright. So, plus ing form of the verb. Was or were. Being written. Here again ing. You have to be very careful. See, here also in continuous tense. Here we have continuous tense. In that we have written ing, being. Isn't it? See, here I have written being. Here past continuous is there. Alright. But it is past. So, these things tells us about the past. But this tells about the continuous tense. Sometimes students, you make mistake. You write down this being, B-E-E-N. But we have to be very careful. ing form, continuous tense is having ing form. So you have to, while changing into passive voice, you have to write down ing, B-E-I-N-G. Alright? So be careful. Next comes the past perfect tense. When past perfect tense is there, at the time had is the past tense in singular or the plural. Had written. When you change, it will add been to it. When the word been is there in the sentence, then understand that the sentence is in the passive voice. But if it is not there, then the sentence is in the active voice. Let us move to the next tense, that is a simple future. Will write. Will shows about the future tense. So when we write down will, it means will write here, then it is future tense. When it will be turned into passive voice, at the time you have to add be to it. So the sentence carrying be, that means it is in a passive voice. See students, these are the things which gives you the idea of the sentence. How can we recognize? Sometimes some students have problem in recognizing the voice, in which voice the sentence is. So if we see all these things, we will be able to come to know that in which voice the sentence is written and in which voice they have to transform the sentence. So, will write, if it is will write, then it is the active voice. If it is will be written, then it is in the passive voice. Let us see the future perfect tense. When future perfect tense is there, the perfect tense words you all know, have, has, had are there. So here in future tense, we will have, we will have. Alright. So will have shows that the sentence is in the future perfect tense. Again, when the perfect tense is there, at the time we have been in the sentence. If it is there, then the sentence is in the passive voice. But if it is not there, that means the sentence is in the active voice. So we have to identify how and what the sentence is. Which voice is this? So these are the things which tells you about the type of the sentence. Is it an active sentence or a passive sentence? So students, all these things are very important. Simple. These are very simple things. Just very calmly you understand. You won't be able, if you will listen to it carefully, read it carefully, you will be able to understand and you will never make mistake in transforming active voice into a passive voice. So things which you have to keep in mind are the tense and the number in the sentence. So, as I told you that we have subdivisions of the tenses. That is, three tenses, past, present and future are subdivided. But we do not use four tenses while converting from active to passive. These four tenses are present perfect continuous tense, past perfect continuous tense, future continuous tense, future perfect continuous tense. As these tenses cannot be converted into the voices, the active voice to passive voice. So be very careful. If you will try it, it will be wrong. So these sentences cannot be converted into passive voice. So these four sentences you have to keep in mind. Present perfect continuous tense, past perfect continuous tense, future continuous tense, future perfect continuous tense. So students, hope these 5 steps formula helps you out in transforming the sentences from active voice to passive voice and passive voice to active voice. Try to solve your sentences with the help of this 5 steps formula. Keep in mind the number and the tense in the sentence. Once you will be habituated with this, then it will be very easy for you to convert the sentence from active to passive and passive to active. I hope this will help you out. Thank you.